Excuse me for my voice, but I have never seen anything like it.
Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Hey, welcome back, sports fans. Andrew Zimmel, host as always. Hopefully you guys are staying safe. Another wild weekend in the world. We have a lot of great podcasts out for you today. This one, we were talking to our friend Melissa about The Last Dance. She's a big Chicago Bulls fan. She's from Chicago. We talked about some of the moments from The Last Dance that she really enjoyed, that I really enjoyed, and some of the storytelling that they did in that documentary. Also, we got to talk a little bit about the Game 7 of the Chicago Cubs and our memories from that. We watched that together and how big of a deal that was for Chicago fans. So, without further ado, here she is, Melissa.
All right, we have on our interviewing today, or talking to our friend Melissa, Chicago native, watched The Last Dance with her, talking a lot about Michael Jordan, big Bulls fan, so it's always fun to talk to you. George Floyd, you see the protests going around the country. I thought it was interesting, off the heels of this Last Dance, Jordan comes out and has a statement today and kind of says, like, we're all in this together, we need to be a community. This is coming after years, decades of him really not being very outspoken. Do you think that the two have anything in common?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's interesting, like, when watching the documentary and him talking about how, he doesn't really, at the time, didn't want to be a spokesperson or endorse anybody within, North Carolina, and, trying to be put in a political spot during his time of, trying to focus on his basketball career. So it's pretty interesting for him to speak out now, but I think more or less, I guess, today and what's happening in society, it's, definitely should be speaked upon, and, for him to take his platform and to talk about, hey, we need to unify, hey, like, what's going on in society isn't right. And so, you take a look and you see, at the time, he was just focusing on basketball. And now that he's kind of out of that light, he's using his platform for good and for the better.
So let's talk about coming from Chicago, being from Chicago. The Last Dance meant something different to you, right?
Definitely.
So why is it so important for us to understand Michael Jordan, do you think?
For me, in a sense, it's, how I grew up at home, both my parents, during the time of, being a part of that culture of the Chicago Bulls, and when Michael Jordan came onto the team, and, growing up, see pictures of Jordan, his face, and, his tongue out in the photos and everything like that. And, even my dad teaching me how to play basketball, he would always try to, do those Jordan layups or Jordan dunks. And so it was pretty cool to also see the memorabilia around the household of the Chicago Bulls. And then also going to, like, the games as a kid. I went during the time, like, the only thing I can remember was when, like, Kirk Heinrich was a part of the team. So that's kind of, like, the only guy that I remember. But definitely for me, and how, my dad is a part of the or that he's a news cameraman. So I even asked him and called him about, his experience during that time, and he was just telling me that he was just starting into being a cameraman, so he never really got to document all of it, but to still be a part of the hype and to carry on that tradition of going to Chicago Bulls games really meant a lot to me. And I knew that, with this connection of, being so far away from home, and since I'm currently here in Texas, watching the documentary series gave me that connection of the city and how I miss it so much.
Does your dad have any cool stories about, like, that time? Because I know he didn't cover it, but, like, being in the city during that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. He would just kind of tell me how everyone would be just, like, lined up to get tickets, kind of like how they showed in the documentary, waking up super early and trying to, witness or see, Michael Jordan play in the arena. And I can only imagine what it was like during that time. And it's something that I wish they could have showed a lot more, was the culture that was happening within the city. because then, it would show us, younger generations to know, because you have the Michael Jordan era, and then you have the Kobe era, and then you have like the LeBron James era. So just to think of like going back on like different, great basketball players, and to show, what the culture was like around the city, I definitely would have loved to see that around within the documentary.
Yeah, I agree, because I know we talked about it a little bit, the lack of Chicago. It kind of felt like, and I get it, it's a Michael Jordan documentary, but
Yeah,
you're
definitely.
from Chicago. Did you recognize like a lack of Chicago? Because it's a unique city. Did you like recognize that there was a lack of that uniqueness in this documentary?
Yeah, it would have been like pretty cool to see, all of like the parades, and to see what the city was like and how exciting everyone and how it like unified everybody, definitely at the time, because, when Michael Jordan was brought onto the team, the Chicago Bulls weren't a big name. Um, and to think that, those championships brought, different communities together, it would have definitely like shined a light on Chicago and what the city is like, compared to what it's known for, with all of the violence it brings in and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely I would have loved to see a lot more culture and, a lot of like the communities. Yeah.
What were your favorite memories from like the documentary? Because I remember sitting on the couch with you. We both were laser focused in during the game,
Mhm.
during like showing the documentary, and then during trivia, I had to, beat everybody at the trivia. But did you like? What were some of your memories that you're going to like keep from this Last Dance? This like cultural moment.
hmm Definitely. I would, I mean, every time I would log into Twitter and, once ESPN or the Bulls or any of those accounts were tweeting out, you know, Michael Jordan's like photos or videos like straight from the docuseries, um, I don't know, just kind of showing that pride into saying like, because there's always those different fans that, claim that, Kobe's the GOAT and LeBron James is the GOAT. And for me, I just say that personally, being biased from Chicago and all that, like, and growing up with it all, I say that Michael Jordan's my GOAT, and just having like those three arguments across the board of everyone trying to, blow up on Twitter of like who's the greatest basketball player of all time. Like, for me personally, like, I don't argue in a sense. I just kind of show my pride and I say, like, hey, this is who I go for. This is, someone that represents my city. And during the time of, it was during that time, that era. And, every other player has their time to shine. So it's like from that time, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, Kobe was great during his time. And currently, right now, LeBron James is doing his thing, which is like great. It's awesome. But for me, I love Michael Jordan and how he, brought a lot to the city and to the sport
Now we're going
as
to get to
well.
it in a
More like,
second. We're going to get to it in
oh
a
yeah.
second, the Cubs. But is Jordan, like when you think of the like iconic Chicago athletes, it has to be Michael Jordan, right? Like that, there's no other debate, there's no other conversation. It's him and then
Mhm.
a landfill of other people.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just okay. So cool. So
Oh,
what are
sorry,
some
I
of
didn't hear it. The video was lagging a little bit, so I
like
wasn't sure what you said to that.
I was asking, it's like it's Michael and then everybody else in Chicago sports. There's nobody else that comes close to touching him, right?
Uh-huh.
That was, I guess it was a statement, it was a question, whatever. So like moving on, talking a little bit more about the documentary, The Last Dance. The uh, we talked a little bit about like Scottie Pippen. So Pippen comes out of this mad at Jordan, he's mad at the production team. You're a Scottie girl. You're a fangirl of Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
How did the doc kind of portray Scottie to you?
Honestly, like during the time when we were all watching the series, when, I'm not gonna lie, I've never really, I don't want to say like I've never really heard of Scottie Pippen. Like, I know of him. And I knew that he was a part of the Bulls and that he played, you know, he was a part of the team and was in the championships. Like, that was recognized and all. But I didn't know, the whole backstory of Scottie. And so learning that as a viewer, I just, like, I don't know, I just felt like his story really captured my heart. I was like, oh, my heart goes out to Scotty, and the fact that with his whole deal and how he didn't get a fair what's the word I'm looking for?
Contract.
Like, yeah, he didn't have a fair contract, and it's just like, and definitely seeing other people, claiming that he was worth a lot more and than what he was like playing, and so it was really cool to see Scotty noticing his worth, and and I was like chanting for Scotty, be like, yes, Scotty, know your worth, know how much money you need to get, because he notices that, the way that he plays, it deserves a lot more attention, and especially more money. And I felt that learning throughout, I never really saw him as being portrayed in a bad way. Um, other than just kind of learning his story until the aftermath of like when the whole series was over and him kind of saying like, oh, they viewed me as a bad person, da 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 da. And again, like I didn't see that. I would say that my heart goes out to him, and I, wished he could have gotten a better contract and a better deal. But it is the way that it is, and now people know his backstory and kind of just like stand by him instead of just kind of being upset on how he's portrayed, because obviously that was back then and now is now. So kind of just, I don't want to say like move on from it, but learn from it and then accept it, and then kind of just make sure that you know your worth, and just go out there and own it.
Yeah, I didn't understand his complaint with the doc, because I thought that they did a really good job of showing Scotty as the ultimate teammate, the ultimate guy who was the guy that when Jordan needed that Pippen, when he needed that Robin, essentially, that
Mm-hmm.
Scotty stood up and did it. But, getting subbed out with the migraines, taking the surgery at the end of the summer instead of doing it earlier, those are the type of things that if you're a teammate, it's going to bother you. If you have a group project you're working on and somebody doesn't tell you they're going to Cancun till a week before the project's due, says, hey, I'm out, I'm MIA, you're going to be pissed. So I get where Mike was coming from with that. But I think Scotty being a little bit oversensitive at the end of this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can definitely see, like, throughout the doc, like, how Scotty was trying to, play around or do little small moves in order for him to at least try to get a raise in his contract, or try to do something to make things better for him. Like, I can see the certain moves that, whether it was, hey, I'm out of this game, or hey, I'm gonna take this surgery, da 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 da. Those were certain actions that should have been thought through a little bit more, and kind of just knowing what the repercussions would be like if you were to take him, because the aftermath wasn't the best for him, because again, he was just kind of thinking like, oh, if I did this, like, or let's see if I did this, and hopefully they'll raise my contract or whatever, they'll give me more money and all that.
I thought the most unnecessary episode of the documentary was the Dennis Rodman one. Like, it didn't.
Why?
I don't think it contributed to the story. Like, I get it. Like, Dennis was a wild and crazy guy, but I didn't know if it like progressed the story forward very much.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the Dennis Rodman story. There's been documentaries. There's been books on it. So for me personally, the Dennis episode probably the worst episode. What did you think? If there was one of the 10, which one would you say? We probably didn't need this one.
Probably, I'm not gonna lie, I liked the Dennis Rodman episode because it showed how different he was against like every other player on the team, and also I feel like they're just trying to introduce different players from like the top 5 or the starting 5 of the Bulls, which is understandable. And since Dennis Rodman is a unique character, it's definitely content that you want to share, and especially on his side, being a part of the starting 5 and all. My least favorite episode, honestly, I would have to say maybe like he was the head coach for, or is the head coach for the Golden Warriors.
Kerr? You didn't like Kerr's episode?
I don't know. I felt like they I mean, it's because they were adding new stories towards the end. That's the thing. They were adding a new story of a player towards the end, and I felt like that should have kind of been showed more towards, either the beginning or the middle, instead of reintroducing who he is and how he grew up and his whole backstory of, with his father passing and all that. I just felt like it was a little late in the documentary to introduce him, but as somebody who's like a videographer and trying and editing and all that jazz. But I would say that my top comment out of like the entire series, and you showed me tweets about this too, where the whole editing process of the whole timeline going back and forth, and I'm just like, hold up, what year are we in again? Like, we go from 1998 or 97, and we're going back to when like Jordan was first drafted, and I'm just like, oh my god, where are we in the timeline? And it was kind of messing me up on like, how it's all playing out, because for me as a viewer, I really like seeing things chronologically and kind of the whole build up, where in this documentary series, like, yeah, they're introducing different players and their time and their backstory, and that's a lot of back and forth, and when they came onto the team too. So I just felt like going a lot of back and forth really kind of was a miss for me. And I mean, it was a cool animation and all, with the timeline, but it was a miss for me in a sense where it's just like kind of confused on what year we were in, and which final, or which championship they were going to win. Is it is it number 2? Is it the Last Dance one? Or where are we? Where are we in time?
As a videographer, like, is that a unique, like, because I thought it was a unique way to tell the story, but as a videographer, do you have to like kind of weigh the, oh, this is a unique creative thing, but also we need to be able to tell the story? Like, how do you weigh that?
For me, I mean, like I said, for me, I like seeing things chronologically and the whole build up to it all. Um, but definitely you kind of see how, the whole title of the documentary series, The Last Dance. So it's kind of like, okay, it's the last season where you have the head coach coming in saying like, hey, this is our last one and we're all out. So you kind of see where it all begins and why it is what it is. Um, but I would think that, the whole board meeting of the whole, what you call it? I'm blanking out. um, like sitting at a table with editors and, cameramen, and how to, create this documentary series, I can definitely see why they did the way that they did it and how they edited it all, and introducing new players and people and situations as well. It's just for me a personal thing where, I just like it chronologically.
What was your favorite Jordan meme from the documentary?
Jordan meme. Oh my gosh. Him looking at the iPad and you see his eyes and the eyebrows like, what? Like, and it's the producers showing him like a video from what somebody else said, and kind of showing him like, hey, you want to see what this person said about the situation? And he's just like looking and laughing. Like, I love that. I always want to use that meme, being like, oh, you're showing me the receipts. Well, I already know what the truth is. Like,
I always thought that like that. I still think that was the most unique way to kind of get Jordan to talk, right? Like you get him, you interview him first, and then you interview the other, secondary, third characters of the story. They tell their side of the story, and then you get Jordan's reaction to it, because you're not going to get a live, post game show with Jordan, because I would kill. You had the Last Dance show afterwards. I would kill to have Jordan on that, where it's like, oh, Scotty said this, Dennis said this, Steve said this, Armstrong said this. Like, I want his reaction to it. But they did that for us. They got that for us. And I thought that was really unique and a really interesting way to progress the documentary, I guess. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, because even during the time of, them showing the scenario, like at the time, everything happening, and then interviewing Michael after, trying to get him to explain like what was going on and what was going on through his brain, and then seeing the memes on Twitter. It's like, oh, you did this to me, now it's personal, and I find that funny, because then you try to hear, or no, not you try, but then you hear Michael explain what was actually going on through his head, and how he felt at the time, and then you hear the other side of it all, and the other players kind of explaining their side, and then you get Michael reacting to it from an iPad and he's just like laughing. Like, I just think that's just wild of Michael, for him to just think like, I already know. I already knew how I felt, and I still feel the same way now. So it's like, oh, Michael.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about the last championship you got to see for Chicago, the Cubs, 2016. I remember.
Don't get me started on it all.
Huh? For those,
I said,
the people
don't
that
get me
don't know,
started on it all.
the people that don't remember, or people that don't know, that was the first time I think all of us were like, the people that we lived with in the dorms, the people that we were all around. That was the first time I think that we all were in the same spot watching the same thing. And you, of course, had like connection to it. You had like a lot of caring. I had a lot of caring because it was one of the first times, or one of the only times, the team came back from 3-1 to win a World Series. Talk me through the Chicago Cubs and winning that title.
Honestly, during that time, or just growing up as a fan, it was tough. It was tough being a Chicago Cubs fan. Like, you got people telling me that, the team sucks, they're never gonna win, or they were close. Like, honestly, I have so many stories of, I remember in elementary school when they were close into the playoffs, and I remember one of our classmates, he bought the whole class these like little goat plushie heads or whatever, and I guess it was something that the Cubs were selling, and the curse of the goat and everything like that. And all of us were all hyped up. We're like, yeah, we're gonna move on to the next after the playoffs or whatever. And I remember my mom, my brother, and I, we were driving to a family friend's house, and we had the radio. I think it was like WGN sports radio, talking about the game at the time. We were listening onto the game, and it was, I don't know, like a couple of innings towards the end, and we were close to reaching our friend's house, that all of a sudden we lost connection and we didn't know what happened after. And so obviously the next day on the news we saw that like the Cubs lost, and they didn't make it to the next round or whatnot. So it's kind of upsetting during the time of like being a kid and a Cubs fan. And so going through middle school and high school and still being a Cubs fan, and thinking, when will it be our time to because I know that the White Sox, they won a championship back then, and everyone was going crazy. It was just like, okay, maybe one year it'll be our time. And you would think that like either Sammy Sosa would be the one to take us, or other teams and other players and stuff. So here comes college, and us being freshmen, and the first semester, and me following all of the media and on Facebook and Twitter and all that, and me watching live streams on my laptop, because I guess since we're in Texas and no one really broadcasts Chicago sports, I had to find my ways. And also I just didn't really know that baseball wasn't really a thing in Texas. And you have the Rangers and you have the Astros, and no one. In Texas it's only football that everyone's kind of crazy about. So here I am wearing my Cubs hat and my jersey, all like walking around campus, so excited, and everyone's kind of just looking at me like, "What the heck is this girl doing?" But I had to share my pride. And so within the next couple of games, 5 and 6. Here I am kind of rooting. I'm in like the lobby, tower, just watching and doing homework. And there was even a game on my birthday, and I was like, should I even buy tickets? And being like, fuck it, like I want to go on my birthday. And they actually did one on my birthday, October 30th. That's my birthday, everybody. But and so my dad would always be sending me pics of the marquee of like Cubs win, we're going to the next game and all that. And I was just like, oh, it makes me miss home. Like it's again, it's a part of that culture, the part of the city culture, and especially with sports, like, it really does, like, it's a really great feeling. So here we are at game 7. And I'm just like, I want to watch this on TV, like I was trying to ask everybody, being like, who has the biggest TV one? That was my main goal. Like, who has the biggest TV out of all of us? And I know you and Ernesto had a big one. So I was just like, and I knew you were like a big sports fan. I was just like, Zimo, we gotta do it. We gotta set things up. We gotta go on our laptop. I got an HDMI cable and everything, or I think we had cable back then, and in the dorms. But I was ready. I was like, we're gonna do this. Like my dad sent me or I had my whole like fly the W flag and everything and all that, and we just started watching the whole game. And here I am, like first couple of innings, I'm like, all right, we got this. We're good. We're ahead and everything. And then it was like 6th or 7th inning. I'm starting to blank out on all of it because I was just like an emotional wreck.
Well, we had the rain delay too. Remember, we had the 2 hour and a half rain delay. That was just like that game in the entirety of it, I think was like close to 6 hours. Like I remember when that game started, it was you, me, Ernesto. I think maybe Aiden was there too. But by the end, by the 9th inning, everybody was in there. Like the entirety of our floor was like in that room with us watching it. And I remember the people who didn't care, people who didn't like sports, were so mad at us because we were so loud.
We were so loud.
We had to be. Like,
I was screaming so much.
And I remember, like, even thinking back to it too, is that like I was happy because you get to see history, right? Like I'm always of the opinion, if you have a chance to see history, you have a chance to watch history, you should do it. You of course have like an emotional connection to the team. Yeah. So either way that this thing fell, if Cleveland won, all right, whatever. If the Chicago Cubs won, I was a little bit more excited for them. You all in on the Cubs. So it was always fun to be around a passionate fan during one of these games.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the thing was that like there was a whole poll across the entire nation, like who do you want to win like the series? And literally you see every single state covered in like the Chicago Cubs logo, and then you only see like Indiana with their team. And I'm just like, everyone wants the Cubs to win. Like, and it's a crazy, thing to see where everyone's kind of just all in it together. But yeah, and it's wild because you would think that, again, it was hard being a Cubs fan from like every loss and, almost to making it and, not reaching to the point where we go to the World Series. We had the opportunity, and then obviously there was like the curse and all that. And, people starting to believe that, oh shit, like this curse is for real. Even like in the 7th, 8th inning, like with the rain delay and, the last minute, like, a couple of scores from Indiana.
Yeah, from Cleveland. Cleveland, by the way, in Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio.
I thought it was Indiana. I'm so sorry. I'm getting my states and teams mixed up. It's because I only care about Chicago. I'm sorry, everybody, but and I honestly, when I said Golden Warriors, I'm like, wait, it's Golden State Warriors. I don't want people to come after me being like, she doesn't know sports. And I'm just like, hey, I only know my teams and my teams only.
Well, that's all that matters, honestly. No, so I wanted to tell you a story from the dorms with sports. So it was the Super Bowl 2016, or I guess it was 17. Yeah, it must have been 17. No, it was. Whatever. It was New England and Atlanta, and we were watching it in George's down in the student hall. Yeah. And I remember Atlanta got up by a ton. I was the only person there rooting for the Patriots. I was the only person who was like, I want to see Tom Brady win this game. They get down 28-3. I said, I'm going home. So I went back to my dorm, turned on Ernesto's TV, and I was watching on his TV. And I had a bottle of vodka in there with me, and I was just pulling from the bottom. I was real disappointed, and they came back and won. And I'll never forget. That was one of the only times that I had both RAs and another RA from another floor all come to my dorm and be like, "You need to calm down. You need to calm down." I was like,
God.
they just won the Super Bowl. Like, can I have a little bit? Can we be a little excited? It's the fucking Super Bowl. Like, can we be happy?
No, definitely.
And yeah, nobody wanted to give me any credit. So it's tough scenes for me.
But yeah, no, even for us being like really loud in the during game 7, we have like the roommates next to us being like knocking on the door and everything. We're like, hold on, we're witnessing history right here. Calm down a bit. We can be as loud as we can. I don't care how many, complaints you file or whatever. But this is history. We gotta watch.
Yeah, you can sleep when you're dead. That's what I've always said. You can sleep when you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Melissa, thank you so much for talking to us about Chicago, the Bulls, the Cubs, and everything else. Stay safe out there, and hopefully we can talk to you again soon.
Yes. Don't come after me for all the little mistakes I did.
That's going to do it for this episode. Check out all of our other great content on the podcast page. You can find us anywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Anchor, Speaker, YouTube. Look, the list goes on and on and on. And if you guys want to check out more of our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Andrew_Zimmel. So thanks again to Melissa, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.